Brothers and sisters, it is no coincidence that you are here. If these words have touched your screen at this moment, it is because heaven has already begun to move upon the nations. And Mary, mother, intercessor, and guide, has not wanted you to be left out of this call. Take a deep breath, feel the air. Don't you sense that something has changed in the atmosphere? It is not fear, it is awakening. This isn't a story meant to impress. It's a warning of love. The Virgin Mary doesn't come to terrorize people. She comes to awaken them before indifference plunges them into a night without lamps. So if something inside you trembles, if a tear struggles to fall even though you don't know why, write just one word in the comments: Amen. When thousands of souls unite in a single Amen, the invisible opens, mercy descends, and what seemed impossible begins to move in your favor. Silently, without headlines, without cameras, heaven has already visited the maps. It passed over coasts that once sang, through valleys that forgot prayer, through cities that traded temples for screens, through small villages where candles are still lit at the Angelus. And where heaven passes, it leaves a mark. Either the light is strengthened or the shadow is revealed. There are no neutral grounds when grace touches. Mary told the humble, those whom no one interviews, but to whom God reveals his secrets, that some countries have entered a time of spiritual harvest, not because of geography, but because of repeated decisions. Where love was denied, days of confusion will come. Where life was defended and prayer protected, consolation will arrive. Don't name flags today, name attitudes, because this is the key. Nations are not saved by their shields, but by their hearts. Listen with your soul. There are nations weary of fighting over ideologies that offer no healing. There, heaven will allow weariness so that people may seek rest where it has always been, in God. There will be countries that embrace noise and the endless flow of news. There, heaven will bestow silences that will weigh more than any speech. There will be others that played with lies until they called them truth. There, heaven will ignite consciences that cannot be extinguished. And you ask yourself, what will happen to these countries? I will tell you as the mother showed it, without sensationalism and with depth. In lands that exchanged compassion for mockery, laughter will turn bitter for a time. But in the midst of bewilderment, hospitals of the soul will arise, homes that will open their doors to comfort strangers, and the people will learn that no one is saved alone. In places that have scorned prayer, the days will be longer and emptier, as if the clock were ticking aimlessly. But it will be enough for a small group to return to the rosary with their hearts, and the neighborhoods will be revitalized. Children will sleep peacefully, and arguments will lose their power in the face of Mary's silent presence. In the metropolises where money has become God, the uncertainty of numbers will make even the trusting tremble. However, those who share bread will not know scarcity, because heaven multiplies what is given. In the countries that defended life even when it cost them, the mother will build refuges. They will be houses of peace amidst the noise, lamps that do not go out when others lose their way. There, the little ones, children, the elderly, the poor, will teach the strong to believe again. In nations that have wounded their own memory, denying the faith of their forefathers, gentle rain will return and water their inner deserts. Forgiveness will be offered again, and enemies will remember each other's names before shaking hands once more. Don't be mistaken, brother. It's not punishment, it's purification. What breaks, breaks to reveal the hidden vein of gold. What darkens, darkens so that the first spark becomes evident. And that spark is you when you say, yes. I say this as a witness. Entire cities awakening to a silence that doesn't frighten. It was a silence heavy with the weight of heaven. The birds fell silent for a moment, as if they heard something we didn't. Windows opened more slowly, footsteps were softer, taxis took a little longer, and no one could quite explain it. The soul of the country breathed differently. In that new breath, Maria's voice seemed to brush against my ear. Children, come back. And then what the wise men of this world call coincidence would happen. A neighbor who never said hello would leave bread at a widow's door. A family that argued all night would turn off the television and hold hands for the first time. A teenager who walked with a lost look would stop in front of a picture and, without understanding why, say, "Mother, help me." This is how the restoration of a country begins, with gestures more powerful than any decree. Mary looks at the map as one looks at a piece of embroidery. From above it seems chaotic. From below, each thread stitches together meaning. In the north, where the cold is not of the climate but of the heart, she will light embers in humble kitchens, and around the fire, conversations silenced by pride will be reborn. In the south, where everything seems to have fallen so many times, she will take root in weary families, and faith will grow like a tree no wind can uproot. In the east, where people rush without knowing where they are going, she will touch the clocks, and haste will understand that eternity is not measured in hours. In the west, where the lights scream, she will offer shadows, so that the soul may see again. Don't expect names in this first part. It's not about pointing fingers, but about lighting lamps. Countries change when their homes change, and a home changes when a heart decides today, "I will pray." Therefore, if this word finds you now, make a simple pact. Tonight, 10 minutes of silence, so that Mary may visit you. Close the door. Breathe. Say, "Mother, come in." It is enough for the angels to note your address. In some places, the air will carry perfume when someone speaks their name. They'll say it's suggestion, but those who experience it will know the visit was real. In others, the sick will sleep a night like they haven't slept in months. It won't be magic, it will be the touch of heaven. And where there was resentment, the memory will soften, and the phrase, "I forgive you," will once again have a human voice. That, too, is a prophecy fulfilled. There is, however, one truth we cannot sugarcoat. Where people insist on calling evil good and good evil, confusion will grow. Not through arbitrary punishment, but through the logic of the soul. When light is rejected, shadow believes itself to reign. Their rhetoric will grow louder, headlines will compete for your fear, and panic mongers will make a killing. What to do? Turn down the volume of the external noise and turn up the lamp of the internal. Return to the rosary, return to the gospel, return to a glass of water offered with love. That disarms storms. I have seen, and I don't say this to frighten you, streets shining for no reason, seas breathing deeper, winds swirling in a contradance. Nature responds to the movement of heaven like the strings of a harp vibrating when someone plays a note. That's why, when you hear news you don't understand, don't rush to explain it. Rush first to pray. Explanation without prayer swells. Prayer without explanation illuminates what is necessary. There are countries that thought themselves invincible and will have to learn to ask for help. There will be shame at first, but then there will be brotherhood. There are countries that knew themselves to be small and will carry a light that will cross oceans. Don't underestimate your city. A community kitchen can be more powerful than an international summit when heaven has already moved. Maria showed me 3 paths that each nation will face, and although there are many nuances, it all boils down to this: the path of arrogance. Explain everything, deny everything, mock everything. It ends in loneliness. The path of fear. Believing for a moment, becoming paralyzed, despairing, it ends in exhaustion. The path of active faith, listening, praying, serving, it ends in growing peace, even in the midst of trials. It's not about spiritualizing everything. It's about putting the Spirit into everything. The economy, politics, culture, health, everything breathes when the soul breathes. A country that prays doesn't stop working, it works better. A people that forgives doesn't renounce justice, it makes it real. A nation that listens to Mary doesn't repeat slogans, it discerns. You might ask, what can I do for my country? More than you can imagine. Listen to this minimal itinerary. blessed by heaven. 1 hour of silence per week for the homeland. Just one. No phone, no music. Lord, enlighten my people. 1 family rosary per week. Invite someone who lives alone. Loneliness is like a hole through which the shadow enters. A gesture of reparation. Ask forgiveness from those you hurt or forgive those who hurt you. That diffuses storms. A table shared with someone in need. Where bread is broken, division is broken. A lit candle next to an image of Mary at dusk. May it be your beacon when anxiety visits you. And now, if your soul feels that this map also speaks of your home, write Amen. Not for statistical reasons, for a covenant. That Amen puts your name on the list of those who support others when they fall. That Amen seals your door with light. That Amen calls the angels by name. Someone might say, but I've prayed and nothing changes. I'll tell you what the mother whispers. Every prayer moves something. If you don't see it outside, you see it within. If not today, tomorrow. If not in you, in someone else. If not on your street, in another city of the same nation that needs to awaken. God weaves on a national scale with threads from kitchens and small bedrooms. That's how it is. The kingdom doesn't enter through the main gate of the palace. It enters through the window of the humble house. There are regions where children will dream the same image, a woman dressed in light, placing her hand on a map and making it warm. There will be elderly people who will recover memories, not of political events, but of forgotten prayers. There will be doctors who will remain silent for 15 seconds before operating, and that pause will be worth 1,000 pieces of advice. There will be teachers who will teach their students how to breathe before starting class, and the classrooms will change their atmosphere. Yes, that is how a country is transformed, from within. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone wants to understand. When heaven stirs, masks are troubled. There will be mockery, labels, labels upon labels. Do not respond with fury. Respond with fruitful peace. Pray and follow. Noise grows when it finds an echo. Do not give it one. In the coming hours, listen carefully, there will be decisions that seem small but will be enormous. To turn off or turn on, to leave or stay, to shout or remain silent, to accuse or forgive, to consume or share. Each of these decisions adds to or subtracts from the spiritual destiny of your people. You are not alone when you choose. Mary is watching over you. The angels are assisting you. Heaven is breathing with you. Perhaps tonight you'll see a strange glow in the sky. Perhaps you'll see nothing and yet feel everything. Don't seek proof to soothe your mind if your conscience has already spoken. The greatest sign isn't the one the eye sees, it's the one that ignites the heart. And when the heart ignites, the house changes. And when the house changes, the neighborhood changes. And when the neighborhood changes, a country awakens. Now take your rosary. Even if you don't remember all the prayers, touch it. It's a grounding wire to heaven. Say softly, Hail Mary. If you can't go any further, just stop at Mary. She understands the missing words. She completes what you started. Before we close this first part, let me look you in the eyes of your soul and tell you what is essential. Do not be afraid. What is coming is not destruction, it is revelation. What creaks is not your story, it is your shell. What goes out is not your light, it is the noise that covered it. If you remain under the mantle of the Mother, your home will be a beacon when others are lost. And now listen to the bridge that opens the door to what comes next. In the next part, Mother will show you how to recognize, country by country, the inner consequences that have already begun, where compassion will grow like a river, where confusion will try to reign, where havens of peace will emerge, and how to discern Mary's voice amidst 1,000 others. I will also tell you what brief prayer protects an entire house, and what simple gesture can deflect tears that have not yet fallen. If you wish to walk this path with us, write Amen and don't leave. Heaven has already moved upon the nations. Now, it is your heart's turn. And when the heart says yes, an entire country breathes. Brothers and sisters, that night when heaven began to move did not end with darkness, but with a haunting clarity. No one could explain where that faint light came from, a light that came neither from the sun nor the moon. It was a radiance that seemed to breathe, a pulse that pierced the clouds and made the windows vibrate, as if the air itself had a heart. I was awake, sitting by the window, when the silence was shattered. It wasn't a noise, it was a feeling. Something inside me stirred, as if my very blood were responding to a call from above, and then I knew the second warning had begun. The streets remained empty, but dogs howled at the sky. In some places, the electricity stopped for seconds at a time, as if the Earth's energy were adjusting to a new, invisible rhythm. It was as if all of creation had received a different command. It wasn't punishment, it was alignment. Mary had said, "When the earth shakes for no reason and the wind turns against you, you will know that the Spirit is breathing upon the peoples." And so it was. The wind changed. The trees swayed aimlessly, the waves defied the tide. A secret order was at work beneath the chaos, and though many were afraid, those who prayed felt peace. Families who had lit a candle that night later recounted how the flame remained undisturbed, even as everything outside churned. The light of heaven recognized the light of their homes. From different parts of the world, the stories began. In coastal villages, fishermen spoke of a glow in the sea. In the mountains, shepherds claimed to have heard choirs. In the cities, hospitals recorded inexplicable healings at dawn. These were not spectacular miracles. They were whispers of restoration. Heaven did not shout. Heaven whispered, and only attentive hearts understood. I went out into the street. The air was different, thicker but not heavy. I walked among long shadows and felt that the whole earth was watching me. And that's when I heard her, not in my ears, but within me. A soft, maternal voice said, "Son, look toward the horizon. Nations are awakening, but some will do so with tears." I looked, and before my eyes the sky divided into three colors: deep blue, gold, and red. Each color touched a part of the world. Blue will cover those who pray, gold those who help, red those who will suffer so that others may live, but I will be in all of them. That was the first vision. The colors of the sky falling upon the countries, and each color had its own story. In the north, I saw cities bathed in blue lights. Families gathered to pray, neighbors shared bread, and hands once cold clasped together. A chant floated in the air, not emanating from any temple, but seemingly uniting everyone. In the south, gold descended like a gentle rain of fire. The humble rose with renewed strength. Mothers found solace in the eyes of their children, and young people, who had once felt lost, began to find meaning in service. And in the west, red covered the streets. It wasn't blood, it was purification. I saw tears, yes, but also embraces. People wept and forgave each other, as if an invisible mirror was showing them how much love they had forgotten. Maria continued speaking. "Every country will be tested, not by its power, but by its capacity to love. Wherever there is a single soul that forgives, there I will plant my refuge. Wherever there is hatred, I will send the wind to cleanse it. Wherever there is fear, I will send the light to remind them that they are not alone." And then I saw the shelters. They weren't places of stone or golden temples. They were homes ablaze from within. In the middle of the neighborhoods, a house shone with a soft glow. Inside, someone was praying. That prayer formed a spiritual flame that spread to the next house, and then to another and another. The cities were transformed into maps of light. Each lamp was an awakened heart. Those who lived in the shadows felt the urge to approach. Some knocked on the door and said, "I don't know why I came here, but I needed to be with you." That was heaven moving among men. There were no speeches or grand public displays. There was compassion. There were hands. There was broken bread. On the borders where fear once reigned, soldiers began to lower their weapons instinctively. It wasn't weakness, it was understanding. I saw a man weep before another he considered his enemy. He didn't need words. The red light that covered the sky did the rest, and in the mountains the elders raised their eyes. They had awaited this time since their youth. Heaven breathes again, they said. The sheep, the birds, the trees, everything seemed to listen to him. Maria's voice returned, "My son, tell the people not to fear the days of silence. They are days of gestation. Like the earth before the rain, the soul hardens to open afterward. Tell them to prepare the lamps, to keep the faith as one keeps a seed in winter, because spring will come, and it will be spiritual." And he showed me a river. The water was clear, but at its bottom were black stones. The stones represented the sins of the people, but the water kept flowing. "That is what mercy is like," said the mother. "It never stops because of the filth at the bottom, but keeps running until it cleanses." At that moment I understood that the movement of heaven was not destruction, it was divine circulation. Human history, stalled by so much noise, was beginning to move again in the direction of love. 3 days after that dawn, the world still trembled. People woke up earlier, without knowing why. Some dreamed of bells that didn't exist. Others saw faces of light in the crowd. The air smelled different. In the villages, animals were born peacefully, without storms. In the fields, seeds sprouted ahead of schedule. Scientists spoke of atmospheric changes. The wise men in prayer knew the truth. Heaven continued to breathe upon the earth. But not everything was calm. Where faith was weak, confusion seeped in like fog. False voices arose saying, "I heard it too." Some wanted to profit from the sacred, others to transform grace into spectacle. Maria warned, "When you hear many voices that claim to be from me, remain silent. I do not speak hastily. I do not argue. I caress." And that was the sign to discern. The true voice of the mother always brings peace, even when it hurts. In some places, the faithful were ridiculed. They were called naive, superstitious. Yet they remained on their knees, and their tears were worth more than the applause of the wise. The whole of history rested on those silent prayers. I understood then that power is not in stone altars, but in hearts that remain burning in the coldest night. The second part of the vision ended with a promise. Mary stretched out her hands and said, "The true test of love is yet to come. When people learn to share without calculation, when leaders serve without pride, when children forgive their parents and parents forgive their children, heaven will once again move powerfully. But this time, it will not be to warn, but to embrace." And her voice faded away like the echo of a song. The sky darkened again, but not with fear. It was a time of rest. Invisible angels descended upon the homes like a warm breeze. The men slept peacefully. The cities, for once, were silent. And when I closed my eyes, I felt something deep in my soul saying, "This is just the beginning," because heaven doesn't stop, because Maria continues walking through invisible borders, and because the consequences of this movement will not be punishments, but seeds that will germinate in history. In the next part, I'll tell you what happened next, how the first shelters of light began to unite with one another, how people formed an invisible network of prayer that stopped wars and healed hearts, and how heaven announced the third movement, the one that will decide which nations will retain their brilliance and which will need to start over from silence. Stay, because what's coming is the very heart of revelation. Type Amen if you still feel the peace of heaven moving over your life. The dawn that followed the second warning was unlike any other. There were no lightning flashes, no tremors, no apocalyptic clouds. There was something deeper, purposeful silence, a silence so profound that the air seemed to hold it in its hands. The cities awoke without a sound, and those who opened their windows out of habit remained still, staring without knowing what they were looking for. It was as if the whole world had decided to listen. I was listening too, and in that silence, the shelters of light began to reveal themselves. They were not temples, nor recognized sanctuaries, nor places hidden in remote mountains. They were ordinary homes where something inexplicable began to happen. Peace became tangible. Where there had once been arguments, there was now calm. Where anxiety once reigned, a gentle certainty enveloped the heart. And those who entered those houses felt an invisible warmth, a luminous breath that came not from anyone, but from everyone. Maria had said, "Do not seek security in walls, but in unity. Where two hearts forgive each other, there my light will descend." And so it was. The sky was woven from house to house. In the poorest neighborhoods, a lit candle was passed from hand to hand. In the buildings of large cities, strangers began to greet each other with respect. In distant villages, the bells rang at unexpected hours, as if the angels themselves were reminding men that sacred time has not ended. I saw with my own eyes the map of the world transformed, not on paper, but in spirit. Over each nation, small sparks of light ignited like embers, and the embers joined together, forming lines until the whole planet became a network of prayers. That invisible network began to throb. The sky breathed with the earth. Maria's voice returned, serene and firm. "These refugees are my answer to the darkness. Don't look for them far away. If there is love in your house, one already dwells there. If there is forgiveness in your heart, I am already part of it." Then I understood. The great movement of heaven was not a destructive wave, but a secret sowing. Each soul that chose to love unconditionally became a point of light, and those lights, though scattered, formed a single spiritual body. That was the network that would stop future shadows. Many, without knowing it, were being called. An elderly woman who prayed alone in front of a window became a beacon for her neighborhood. A child who shared his bread with a stranger triggered a chain of silent miracles. A sick man who accepted his pain with faith opened an invisible door through which grace entered an entire hospital. They were not heroic gestures. They were echoes of heaven acting through the little ones. Meanwhile, governments argued the news was confusing and markets rose and fell. But beneath that surface of noise, something bigger was growing. Heaven doesn't care about numbers. It cares about souls. One night, while I was praying, the air changed again. There was no wind, but the curtains moved as if touched by invisible hands. And the voice returned, closer than ever. "Son, tell the world that the fire that is coming is not a fire of destruction. It is a fire of truth. And truth, when it touches, burns away what is not love." Then I had a vision, an immense field of wheat, half golden, half dark. The sun rose, and where its light fell, the wheat became bright. Where it didn't reach, the wheat dried up. "That's how the nations are," Mary said. "Don't fear the shadows, fear the hearts that refuse to receive the light." And at that moment, thousands of souls began to move. People who had never been interested in spirituality felt a sudden need to look to the sky. Those who hated began to cry without knowing why. Those who mocked the faith secretly lit a candle. It was as if global consciousness had awakened in a single breath. But along with the light came the trial. The opposing forces also moved. Pride, division, and hopelessness tried to smother the embers. The shelters were labeled as madness, and those who prayed were ridiculed. However, the voice repeated, "Do not respond with anger. Darkness feeds on noise. Respond with prayer." And the shelters held. Some lost everything except their faith. Others were persecuted, but their example multiplied hope. Each tear shed became a seed that blossomed in another part of the world. Heaven used pain as the root of miracles. Weeks passed. In the outside world, events were accelerating. Sudden droughts, impossible rains, skies that shone at midnight. Scientists called it coincidence, but hearts knew the truth. Creation was responding to its creator. The entire planet behaved like an organism in prayer. Then something happened that took my breath away. During the early hours of the morning, the sky was illuminated with a cross of light. Not everyone saw it, but those who did never forgot it. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. And in its center, a white, luminous, barely perceptible figure extended its arms over the earth. He didn't need words. The silence said it all. After that sign, the shelters multiplied. They were no longer just a few homes. They were entire communities that decided to live in peace, serve their neighbors, and renounce fear. Conflicts ceased where they prayed. The fires stopped before reaching their streets. The air was different around those places. There was no magic. There was faith. And I understood what the mother meant from the beginning. Heaven is moving, but it needs hearts to make way for it. In those days, the leaders of several countries, without agreeing with each other, began to utter words of reconciliation. Some signed impossible treaties, others opened borders that had been closed for years. They didn't do it out of convenience, but out of an inexplicable sense of urgency. It was time to repair. However, not everyone accepted the light. There were regions that chose to ignore it. There, the silence of heaven grew denser. There were no lightning flashes or punishments, but the souls felt empty, and that emptiness weighed more than any war. The mother spoke once more, almost in a whisper. Do not weep for those who close their doors. Keep praying. Prayer opens cracks where my light will enter. Night fell slowly. The wind stopped, and the earth breathed with the sky once more. This third part ends, but the movement continues. Because after the shelters will come the unification of the lights. When the lit hearths recognize one another, when prayers in different languages unite in a single song, and the planet, for the first time in centuries, feels the common heartbeat of love. In the next part, I'll tell you how that singing began to be heard, how people discovered the language of the soul, and how heaven revealed the next step, the awakening of the waters, the oldest movement of all, where pain will be washed away and history purified. Stay, because the sky keeps moving, and what comes now is the very voice of the earth responding to the Creator. The dawn of the new day did not arrive with fire, but with water. Not the usual rain, nor the rivers we know, but a profound awakening, an ancient murmur that came from the depths of the world, as if the earth itself had remembered its origin. The oceans breathed differently. The waves moved with a rhythm that seemed like prayer. The air carried a salty perfume that came not from the sea, but from the sky. Maria had said in her old messages, "When the waters sing, the world will know that its purification has begun." And that song began. At first, it was an almost imperceptible murmur. The fishermen heard the water moving even without wind. The rivers seemed to have a life of their own, forming eddies that drew strange symbols, such as crosses, spirals, eyes. Scientists called it magnetic coincidence, but those who prayed knew that the spirit was flowing through the currents of the world. For days on end, the planet lived under a feeling of serene anticipation. The animals drank and stared at the reflection in the water, as if they saw something beyond the surface. The children, the pure of heart, began to have identical dreams in different parts of the world. They saw a great wave of light, transparent and golden, that did not destroy but healed. In one of those dreams, a boy from the north recounted in simple words what millions felt later. The water spoke and said, "I did not come to sink, I came to cleanse." And so it was. The rains that fell those days did not bring devastation. In contrast, where they fell, the land immediately turned green again. Dry fields bloomed in a matter of hours. The polluted lakes regained clarity. Even the air changed. It was lighter, cleaner, as if breathing it was also an act of faith. But not everyone understood the sign. Some saw water as a danger. Others interpreted it as a threat of punishment. However, those who knew Mary's voice knew that it was a sign of mercy. The mother had not promised fire, but purification, not punishment, but renewal. The seers, those hearts sensitive to the divine whisper, recounted that during the early morning of the third day, the waters of the sea began to reflect celestial lights, as if the firmament were submerging into them. From the cliffs of Europe to the shores of America, thousands of people claimed to have seen the same phenomenon. Blue and white flashes moving underwater. It was neither bioluminescence nor a mirage. It was the vibration of prayer materializing. Those who prayed in the homes, in the shelters of light, felt the change before they saw it. The air was filled with a low, harmonious sound, almost a song, and when they looked out the windows, the sky and the sea seemed as one. The horizon line had disappeared. Everything was water and light, as in the beginning of creation. Then the voice spoke again. It didn't come from abroad. It came from within. My children, the waters remind us of our first love. Everything was born of the spirit that moved upon them. Now I walk once more across the world to awaken what was asleep. At that moment, many began to cry, not out of fear, but out of recognition. The soul, upon hearing the voice, remembered something it had forgotten for centuries, its origin in mercy. The waters of the planet, oceans, rivers, tears, became a single symbol. Each drop seemed to contain a reflection of heaven. And in that reflection, for a brief second, some saw figures, outstretched hands, faces of light, gazes that did not judge. It was as if the Creator used water to show us His face without burning our souls. A woman from the mountains later recounted, "While it was raining, I felt that each drop had a name. A drop fell on my forehead and I heard within myself, 'I have waited so long for you.' I understood that heaven doesn't judge us. It seeks us out." And so the water continued to fall, soft, persistent, as if it wanted to erase centuries of guilt and leave only the essential, love. For 3 days the planet was washed. The wars stopped for no apparent reason. The weapons didn't work. The armies remained motionless. The satellites stopped transmitting, and the only thing that could be heard throughout the world was the sound of water, an ancient sacred rhythm that seemed to repeat a word, "Come back." Idu. In the shelters of light, families embraced each other. The lit candles did not go out in the rain. On the contrary, they shone brighter. It was as if fire and water were no longer enemies, but allies in the same mission, to renew the world. A seer in South America wrote down what she heard in her prayer: "Water doesn't come to erase, but to rewrite. Every drop that falls on the earth erases a wound and leaves a promise." And indeed, the days that followed were filled with promises kept. Patients recovered their health without explanation. Old family conflicts were resolved. Missing people returned. Peoples who once hated each other began to exchange aid, food, and medicine. Humanity, though confused, was beginning to remember its soul. But along with the blessing came the revelation. On the fourth day, the waters began to slowly recede, and what they left behind was not desolation, but mirrors. Yes, natural mirrors formed in the ground, crystalline reflections where each person could see their face, but not as they knew it. Looking at himself, he saw his inner self, the truth of his soul, the love he had given, the harm he had caused, the forgiveness he still had to offer. It was the second biggest exam in the world, a mirror of water in every heart. Some fled from that reflection, others knelt weeping. And with each tear that touched the water, the reflection changed, becoming clearer, purer, brighter. It was as if forgiveness cleansed the image. Maria spoke once more. "Don't be afraid to look at yourself. Water doesn't condemn, it only reveals. The soul that sees itself with humility is saved. The soul that hides withers away." And then I understood. The real flood was not of water, but of conscience. God did not come to destroy, but to reveal what the heart had hidden. The nations trembled, not from catastrophe, but from compassion. Leaders, wise men, powerful men, all saw themselves reflected, and many broke down upon discovering how far they had been from the truth. It was the day humanity looked at itself without masks. After the waters awoke, an even deeper silence followed. But it wasn't empty. It was the earth's rest after crying. A silence like the one that follows forgiveness. And from that silence, new songs began to emerge. Songs in languages that no one knew, but that everyone understood. Children, the elderly, entire villages began to sing the same melody without ever having met. It was an ancient language, the language of the soul. Those who heard it felt their hearts vibrate. It was as if the entire planet were praying with one voice. That song will be the theme of the next celestial movement, because when the waters spoke, humanity awoke. But when the soul sings, heaven will answer. Stay, faithful soul. The next part will reveal the song of the earth, the echo that will unite the sky with burning hearts. There, the prelude to the great unification will begin, the moment when love will finally be recognized in all languages, among all peoples, and the world will remember the sound of its creator. When the waters receded, the world was enveloped in a silence so pure that the heartbeat of the earth could be heard. The fields smelled new. The cities awoke with the feeling of having dreamed something sacred, although not everyone remembered what it was. But in some deep corner of the collective soul, something had changed forever. The entire planet breathed at a different rhythm, as if the heart of heaven had synchronized with that of the world. That's when the singing began. Nobody knew where he came from. Some heard it in the wind, others in the murmur of the water or in the trembling of the trees. It was a melody without instruments, a vibration so soft that at first it was mistaken for the echo of silence. But it was not silence. It was the voice of the planetary soul, awakening. Maria had said, "The day the world sings without knowing why, they will know that my son has touched the earth." And so it was. At midnight, in a village lost among mountains, a boy began to hum a melody that no one had taught him. Hours later, on another continent, an old woman sang the same note without knowing the boy or his story. At dawn, thousands of people in different countries began to sing the same thing. It was a song without words, but everyone understood it. Each note brought peace. Each pause brought comfort. The air vibrated with a tenderness impossible to describe. The animals were approaching. The flowers were opening. The patients slept peacefully for the first time in years. And in the sky, some said they saw golden lines moving in time with the sound. The song spread like a river of invisible light. He crossed borders, seas, languages, religions. The remaining spiritual chains began to break. Closed hearts opened like buds to the sun. No one could explain it, but everyone felt the same thing, a peace so deep it hurt. Scientists spoke of harmonic resonances, inaudible frequencies, and electromagnetic waves. But what was happening had no explanation. It was a response of the human soul to love. It was the earth returning to heaven what it had received, mercy. And as the song spread, the visible signs began. At night, the sky shone with soft lights that moved as if they were dancing. They were not auroras, they were not satellites. They were vivid, pulsating flashes, as if the prayers had become matter. Those who gazed at the heavens felt that each light responded to their emotions. If they cried, the light intensified. If they prayed, it multiplied. It was the language of love in its purest form. In the midst of that phenomenon, Mary's voice spoke again, not from heaven, but from within the song. "My children, this melody is born from you. It does not come from above, but from deep within. It is the echo of the souls that awoke. It is proof that darkness no longer reigns. As long as they keep singing, evil cannot advance." And then I understood that singing was not just a sound, it was a spiritual wall. Each note spoken with love raised an invisible barrier that prevented the enemy from approaching. It was the new form of prayer. He didn't ask, he gave thanks. He wasn't begging, he was proclaiming victory. People began to gather spontaneously in squares, churches, beaches, and mountains. There were no leaders, no temples, no hierarchies, only hearts. And in the midst of those meetings, without rehearsals or instruments, the same song emerged. Thousands of voices united on a single frequency. There were no words, but the soul understood everything. And where the singing resounded, impossible things happened. The hatred stopped, the disputes ceased, the fear disappeared. Even the approaching storms changed course. Those who witnessed it said that the wind turned golden. The clouds opened up, and a scent of flowers descended even though there were no gardens nearby. It was as if heaven itself were exhaling its presence. One night, as the song spread across the continents, something even more amazing happened. The entire planet vibrated to a single note. It was not an earthquake, nor a roar, but a gigantic breath, as if the entire earth was sighing. At that moment, the oceans calmed, the animals stood motionless looking east, and the sky was illuminated with a light that did not hurt the eyes. It was blue, vibrant, captivating, and within that light, a female figure emerged. It wasn't far away. It was everywhere. Mary did not come down from heaven, she manifested herself in the vibration of the song. Her voice resonated soundlessly, straight into the soul. The earth sings because it has remembered who created it, and every heart that joins in this song extends mercy over the world. Don't stop singing, my children, because as long as there is even one voice burning in faith, the darkness will retreat. And the singing grew even louder. But it wasn't a noise, it was harmony. The cities were lit without electricity. The mountains reflected glimmers, the air had a golden hue, the tears of millions fell to the ground, and where they touched, the earth flourished. I saw with my own eyes what the ancient prophets had described as the chord of creation. Each soul that loved emitted a distinct note, and together they formed the symphony of divine love. That was the melody that God had left as a mark on every human being, and that fear had silenced for centuries. Now heaven had awakened her, and then the mother spoke again. Soon, my children, the counternote will come, because the enemy, upon hearing the song, will try to imitate it. It will seek to confuse, to mix noise with harmony, lies with faith. But mine will know how to tell, because true song does not seek glory, it seeks to console. From that warning onwards, the false echoes began. Contradictory messages, distorted signals, human voices disguised as revelation. The enemy tried to sow doubt, dividing hearts, and for a moment the singing seemed to weaken, the silence threatened once again. But it was then that the shelters reunited. Families, the elderly, young people, all remembered what they had learned. Praying in silence is singing in the spirit, and they did. In every home, on every corner, someone began to hum. One note, then another, until the singing returned, stronger, purer, and the false echo disappeared like a shadow before the light. It was the victory of love over confusion, and with it came the third phase of awakening, unification. The seers called it the dawn of the peoples. Mary called it the choir of mercy. She said, when peoples recognize each other without borders, when the language of the soul transcends all languages, they will know that the kingdom has begun. And so it was. Singing united what history had separated. The enemies embraced. The religions were heard. The nations helped each other unconditionally. The man finally remembered that he was a brother, and heaven smiled. The angels descended like visible flashes, settling upon those who sang with pure hearts. Some were able to feel them, others just cried without understanding why. But everyone was touched. The whole earth vibrated like a sacred instrument, tuned by love. Maria spoke for the last time on that bright day. Singing is not the end. It is the bridge. Through him, my son will walk among men again. And that phrase marked the beginning of something bigger, a secret, silent preparation, which heaven began in the chosen hearts. They would be the guardians of the echo, those who would preserve the pure tone of love while the world faced the final purification, because after the singing will come the decision, and whoever has loved will not fear. The song of the earth did not cease, but it began to transform. It was no longer just a melody that men sang. It was a pulse, a vibration that traveled beyond the clouds, rising to spaces where time does not exist. The sound crossed the borders of the air, entered the silence of the stars, and there, in the invisible, something awoke. Heaven answered. At first it was just a feeling, a profound calm, a peace so powerful that the soul trembled upon feeling it. The nights became luminous without explanation. The sky, once distant, seemed to descend. And in that descent, humanity began to perceive it. The echo. It wasn't a sound like ours. It was more subtle, more vast, as if the entire universe breathed in sync with the prayer of men. Every note sung by a human voice was returned 1,000 times, amplified from infinity. The stars were shimmering, the winds were changing course, and the air had a golden glow that the eyes could not define, but the heart recognized. The presence. Maria had said, "When the song rises and heaven responds, the boundary between the visible and the invisible will break. Then they will understand that they were never alone." And so it was. For 3 days, the celestial echo covered the earth. Not everyone heard it with their ears, but everyone felt it in their soul. It was an ancient call, a timeless voice that said, "Go back home." The seers described it as a wave of liquid light descending from the heavens. The trees seemed to lean. The waters formed heart shapes, and impossible flowers sprouted in the driest deserts. Everything responded to the echo. It was as if the entire creation recognized the voice of its origin. In the shelters of light, the faithful gathered to pray, and the very air seemed to breathe with them. The echo of heaven entered the houses and made the walls, the lamps, the hearts vibrate. Many began to cry without knowing why. Others knelt, feeling a presence that could not be explained. And in the midst of that collective experience, a figure of light appeared. It was not a physical apparition. It was a form made of radiance that contained all the lights of the world. Some saw an angel, others saw the mother, but they all understood the same thing. Heaven had come down to walk among men. The voice spoke, clear as dawn. "The echo you hear is not coming from outside. It is born in the depths of your spirit. Because heaven is not a place, it is a state of the soul. The kingdom of God has begun to manifest itself within you." And that phrase marked a turning point. All of humanity felt that something was opening up, an interior door, a forgotten memory. Hearts began to remember what it was like to live without fear. Minds quieted down. Time seemed to stand still. That's when the echo became visible. Yes, visible. The air began to vibrate with lines of light that came out of people and joined together, forming a luminous network over the cities. Those who prayed emitted more intense flashes, and those flashes touched others, awakening new lights. The whole world became a shimmering tapestry. Each soul was a note, and together they formed the echo of heaven on earth. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The awakening provoked resistance. The shadows, upon being discovered, began to stir. Dark thoughts, old fears, dormant passions, everything that wasn't love surfaced. It was as if the echo acted as a mirror, forcing the soul to look at itself, and many could not bear their reflection. Maria spoke in a comforting voice. "Do not fear if the echo awakens in you what you thought you had overcome. Purification begins by revealing what is hidden. Don't run from the pain, surrender to it, because everything that is surrendered to love is transformed." The tears of millions of people became part of the echo. Where there was crying, there was healing. Where there was guilt, forgiveness flourished. The hospitals were filled with light, the battlefields fell silent, and the seas, once turbulent, reflected serene skies. But the greatest sign was yet to come. At midnight on the seventh day, the echo changed tone. The entire sky was covered in a deep blue glow, and a new voice, more majestic than any earthly sound, uttered a single word. I'm... The clock stopped. The wind stopped. The heart of the world stopped for an eternal second, and at that moment all souls felt the same thing, the certainty that God was there. It was not a vision, nor a dream, nor madness. It was the perfect union between heaven and earth. The animals knelt down, the mountains trembled, and men understood that all creation sang the same name from the beginning: love. The echo then became a wave, a divine breath that touched the oceans, the cities, the deserts. Wherever he went, people fell to their knees, not from fear, but from awe, because every soul heard its name spoken by the eternal voice. Some heard it in their own language, others with their hearts, but everyone understood. They were known, loved, awaited. The seers later said that that moment was like seeing the soul of the world open up. Thousands of people felt they could forgive everything, that the past was dissolving, that the wounds stopped hurting, and that for the first time the silence was not empty, but fullness. Maria appeared again, this time closer, almost human, walking among her people. Not everyone saw it, but everyone felt it. Her voice was a luminous sigh. My children, the echo of heaven has not come to stay, but to remind you who you are. Because when the echo fades, what remains in you will be the seed of eternity. Guardadla, alimentadla. Because soon the world will be tested by what it has learned. And so it was. The echo began to slowly dissipate, like a wave returning to the sea. But a vibration remained in each soul, an invisible pulse that never goes out. The human heart had changed frequency. It no longer beat just to survive. It beat to love. The following weeks were calm and focused on preparation. Humanity seemed to be reborn. People spoke to each other kindly. The wars paused. The enemies forgave each other. It was a brief time, but full of grace, a prelude, because heaven never acts without purpose. And when the echo fades, it's because the word is coming. That word has not yet been spoken, but everyone is waiting for it. The air senses her. The soul longs for her, because when God speaks, the entire universe bows down, and that voice, the one that will come after the echo, will be the subject of the next revelation, the most solemn moment in all of spiritual history. Because after the echo of heaven will come the voice of the Creator. In the next part, the message will reach its highest point, the moment when heaven will stop responding and begin to speak, and his word will not be noise or thunder, but a truth that will pierce every soul like sweet fire. Get ready, because what follows is not history. It is a living revelation. The echo of heaven had ceased. The air was still, as if the entire universe were holding its breath. There was no wind, no song, no brightness, only a silence so absolute that it weighed on the soul. It was the prelude to something immeasurable. The ancients knew that when heaven is silent, it is because it is about to speak. And that voice, the one that created everything that exists, spoke again. It wasn't a sound. It was neither a roar nor thunder. It was an inner vibration, a luminous certainty that pierced the earth like a ray of eternity. Every human being, every leaf, every stone, every drop of water felt it. It was a language without words, an instant understanding, a revelation impossible to deny. The voice of the Creator spoke within all living things. Those who were spiritually awake fell to their knees. Those who were still asleep felt a pressure on their chest, a soft but irresistible call. And the voice, without tone or language, said, "My son, everything that was created is part of me. I have been in your pain and in your joy, in your searching and in your silence. Don't look for me outside. I am the breath within your breath." At that moment, fear disappeared from the world. The souls understood that they had never been separated from God. Humanity's mistake was not distance, but forgetting, and the Creator, with infinite tenderness, restored the lost memory. The seas sparkled, the mountains trembled, the sky turned golden as if it were made of fire and honey, and the voice continued, "I have heard the song of the earth. I have felt your regret. I didn't come to judge. I came to bring life back to what was dormant. But now the time of awakening will be tested, because whoever has seen the light must learn to walk in it." Their hearts were burning. It was not a fire that burns. It was a fire that reveals. The soul saw what it had been and what it could become. Many wept uncontrollably. Others laughed with childlike purity. Some simply remained silent, knowing that they were facing the greatest truth. God was not above, but within. The invisible sound spread like a wave. He crossed oceans, deserts, forests, and cities. Every place became a sanctuary, every home a temple, and those who heard the voice understood that the true altar was the heart. All of humanity stopped. Clocks lost their meaning, borders stopped mattering, and time dissolved into a single present, the eternal now of God. It was then that the seers, the mystics, and the humble began to tell the same story, in different languages, with different words, but with the same truth. They said, "The Creator has spoken, and his voice sounds like pure love." Some heard a melody, others a name. Others simply felt such a strong sensation that it made them collapse. But they all agreed on one thing. There was no fear. The voice did not accuse, did not reproach, did not demand. It was just showing. And what it showed was beautiful. The soul saw its origin, its purpose, its eternity. Each one saw the invisible thread that connected him to the rest of creation. Animals, plants, rivers, stars, all were part of the same fabric. The universe was not a machine, it was a living body, and God was its heart. And then the Creator spoke a second time, and the whole earth responded, "I gave you my image so that you would learn to love. I gave you the freedom to learn to choose. And now I give you memory so that you will never forget that you are mine." The words were not spoken by lips, but by light. A light so pure that it penetrated the skin, the bones, the thoughts. Every particle of air contained that presence. Those who suffered from incurable diseases were healed. Those who hated each other reconciled. Those who had lost their faith regained it. The miracle was not external. It was the inner union of the soul with its origin. At that moment, the angels descended again, not as winged figures, but as beams of white energy that danced around the world. His presence brought peace and a fragrance that did not belong to this earth. The sky was the color of mercy. The air was filled with invisible music. It was the symphony of creation awakening to its source. Maria appeared in the light, but not as before. She was no longer just a mother. It was a reflection of the fullness of God. Her face shone, and her eyes held universes. She spoke with infinite sweetness. "Children, he has spoken to you, and in his word everything has been renewed. Now you must take care of what you have received, for the world will enter a decisive time, and the voice you have heard will be kept within you. Don't wait for another sign. Become it." And with those words, a new silence descended. But this time, it wasn't absence. It was fullness, the silence of the Creator after speaking. For hours, nobody moved. The entire planet seemed to stop. And when the wind started blowing again, nothing was the same. The trees emitted a subtle glow. The water tasted of purity. The children played with a serenity that seemed heavenly. Evil had not disappeared, but it had lost its hold. The human heart at last had remembered the name of its father. Men began to write, to paint, to sing, to build, not out of ambition, but out of gratitude. Art became prayer, science, a service. Politics, compassion. The world breathed differently. It was the prelude to a new stage, the inner kingdom. But the Creator had not left. His voice, though invisible, continued to vibrate in the depths of every soul. Every time someone loved, forgave, helped, or simply remained peacefully silent, the voice manifested itself again. It was the new language of the Spirit, the word transformed into action. However, Maria warned, love has been sown, but it will be tested, because darkness will try to extinguish what it cannot understand. No friends, as long as they remain in the voice they heard, no shadow can touch them. And so began the next phase of the great mystery. Heaven had spoken, and the world had responded. But every divine word brings with it a mission. Humanity had been called not only to hear, but to make its voice heard. In every gesture, in every glance, in every silence, that would be the real challenge. Because when the voice of the Creator resounds, there is no turning back. The earth can no longer pretend it hasn't heard. Humanity has been marked by the sound of origin, and that echo will remain until the end of time. Now, the world prepares for the next step, the deepest and most mysterious, the time of the election. The voice has spoken, the echo has been received, and the human soul must decide whether to preserve the light or let it die. And so ends the seventh part. But the journey doesn't end there, because the next revelation will show man's response to the divine word. The title of the next stage will be The Moment When Humanity Must Choose Between Maintaining the Vibration of Light or Returning to the Darkness of Oblivion, where faith will be measured not by words but by actions, and where the history of the human spirit would enter its most decisive chapter. The echo of the divine voice still vibrated in the air when humanity awoke from its wonder. There was peace, yes, but a disturbing peace. A silence that was not calm, but waiting. Their hearts knew that something else was coming. The voice of the Creator had spoken, but his word was not a conclusion. It was a command. The dawn that followed that day seemed different. The sun rose purer, but the whole world looked at it with new eyes. Every person, every people, every nation had felt the same calling. And deep inside them all, one phrase burned: now decide. Because the voice did not come only to console. He came to separate, not with punishment, but with clarity. And that clarity was a light impossible to extinguish. During the first few days, all of humanity walked as if under a love spell. The enemies embraced. The governments spoke of forgiveness. The churches united in common prayer. It was as if the kingdom was already here. But slowly, as routine returned, the human heart began to divide. Some retained the vibration of love. Others, unable to bear so much light, sought refuge in the old darkness. Ego, fear, pride, all the old ghosts have returned, but now under a new disguise, that of doubt. The Creator had spoken, yes, but his voice was invisible. And many began to ask, what if it was an illusion? What if it wasn't him? Faith became the first test, and that test would not take place in temples, but in everyday life, in the word, in the gesture, in the gaze. Because whoever had heard the voice should live as if they still heard it. Maria, who was still walking among her people, spoke with tenderness and gravity. My children, the voice you heard is still within you, but the world will want to drown it out with noise. The real battle will not be against external evil, but against the forgetting of love. And so began the time for decision. In every corner of the planet, hearts were put to the test. There were no judges, no signs, no visible miracles, only small choices: to tell the truth or to lie, to forgive or to hold a grudge, to serve or to dominate, to love or to fear. Every decision became a spiritual act, every gesture an offering or a fall. It was the examination of the soul, but without exams, only conscience. The seers called it the silent hour, a time when God would no longer speak because he had already said everything. Now it was humanity's turn to respond. During that period, something invisible began to happen. The world was divided, not into territories, but into frequencies. There were places where the light continued to flow, and others where the air itself seemed to grow heavy, as if the shadow had returned to reclaim its space. Those who had preserved the vibration of love, they could feel the change in the atmosphere. The cities were filled with an invisible tension. Their faces hardened. The conversations became cold. The noise once again dominated the streets, and the inner peace of many began to fade. But in the midst of that confusion, the shelters of light, those homes that prayed, began to shine more brightly. Not with physical fire, but with an energy that the soul could feel. Those who approached those places felt immediate relief, as if an invisible breeze enveloped them. Love was still alive there. Maria spoke again. The enemy cannot destroy the light, but it can distract her. Do not fear the darkness, fear weariness of spirit. Persevere, because this decision isn't made once, but every day. The weeks passed and the division became visible. There were those who lived in harmony, radiating compassion, and those who, gripped by fear, they began to deny everything they had felt. Love began to seem like madness, faith a weakness, and the reason, a new idol. But those who remained silent knew. They knew that history was being decided not on thrones or in wars, but in the hearts of the humble. An old woman from a remote village said it better than any prophet. Heaven spoke to us, and now it watches us, not to punish us, but to see if we have learned to love without miracles. And he was right. The time for the decision would not bring any more spectacular signs. The miracle now had to happen from within. However, as their hearts drifted apart, the shadows were gaining ground. It wasn't physical darkness, it was confusion. People began to doubt their own goodness. The leaders were once again divided. Fear reappeared disguised as prudence, and many who had heard the voice, now they said they didn't remember its sound. That was when heaven sent its final warning, not like thunder, but like a whisper. A breeze swept across the world. And in the midst of that breeze, the pure souls heard a phrase, "Untested love is not fulfilled love," and the world understood. It was not enough to have felt God. One had to live like him. It was not enough to have heard the voice. One had to embody it. It was time to choose based on facts, not emotions. To love when there was no reward. To believe when the sky was silent. That was the true purification. Those who persevered shone. Those who doubted lost their tempers, and those who denied the call were plunged into deep sadness, as if they had lost something they couldn't name. But even to them, Mary did not abandon them. She appeared one night silently in the center of the sky, surrounded by stars. His mantle covered the entire world, and her voice, soft and maternal, was heard once more. There is still time. The decision is not a condemnation, it is a path. Every soul can return, because as long as there is a heart that says yes, mercy never closes. And so, the time for the decision was extended. It wasn't a day or a date. It was a process. A trial without judges, where every action defined the destiny of the soul. A long dawn, where light and shadow coexisted, awaiting the verdict of the human heart. In the end, the world began to divide into two silences. The silence of those who listened to the Creator within, and the silence of those who only heard their own fear. And that contrast would mark the beginning of the next era. Because once the decision was made, what followed was not peace, but revelation. Heaven would never speak again. but through events. Heaven will show the consequences of the choice. Faithful hearts will be strengthened, the shadows will be unmasked, and the whole world will witness the beginning of the great spiritual transformation. That will be the moment when everything that has been announced comes to pass, and humanity may see with its eyes what it already knew in its soul. Get ready, because after the decision, the truth will come out. The time for decision had passed. The world was suspended in an unsettling stillness, as if the entire universe awaited the Spirit's next move. The souls who chose the light shone with serenity, while those who refused to listen to the voice of love, they wandered in a dense silence without comfort. It was the dawn of the final revelation. Not an end, but a beginning. Not a punishment, but a mirror reflecting the truth. The days that followed were different. The sky took on a color that no one remembered ever seeing, a mixture of gold and silver, a vivid light that seemed to observe from within. The animals behaved docilely, the seas breathed in time with the wind, and at night the stars seemed closer, as if the firmament had descended to the height of men. Then the demonstration began. It did not come with a bang or a catastrophe. He came with clarity, a clarity that pierced the mind and spoke directly to the soul. People began to see with a new perspective. They could perceive good and evil not as ideas, but as presences. The lying words grew opaque in the air, and the sincere ones emitted flashes. The spiritual world had begun to mix with the material world, as if the veil between the two planes were slowly tearing. Those who had preserved the vibration of love, they saw luminous signs in the simplest of places. A flower turning towards the light without sun, a candle that did not go out in the wind, a child who uttered phrases of wisdom that could not have come from his age. Everything seemed to be talking. Everything breathed in unison with the Creator. It was as if the earth itself had recovered its voice. But for others, the experience was different. Those who had closed their hearts, they began to feel the weight of their own shadow. There was no external punishment, but rather a kind of inner mirror that reflected every action, every word, every thought omitted. The soul saw its reflection, and some couldn't bear the sight. It wasn't physical pain, it was the burning of truth entering areas where fear reigned. Mary, who was still watching over the world, spoke through the wind. "My children, the fire you feel does not come from outside, but from within. It is the purification of the soul that resists love. Do not be afraid. Everything that is revealed can be healed if it is surrendered with humility." And thousands, upon hearing that whisper, began to weep. Tears fell upon the earth, and where they touched the ground, small lights appeared, as if compassion itself had a form. The cities that were praying were filled with a luminous mist, a glow that enveloped the buildings, the trees, the bodies. Those who walked under that light felt neither tiredness nor fear. It was confirmation that heaven was still there, waiting for one thing only, the return of love. Then began the great awakening of memory. The souls began to remember their purpose, its origin, its mission, not as religious ideas, but as living certainties. Each one suddenly understood why they had been born. Who should I forgive? What needed to be healed? The past is no longer a burden and became a teacher. The future is no longer something to fear, and it became a promise. In the midst of that process, the seers announced what they called Transparency Day, a day when nothing could be hidden. Thoughts would be projected as light or shadow. Empty words would lose their sound, and pure intentions would ring out like bells in the air. It was the manifestation of divine justice, but a justice made of mercy, not punishment. The whole world witnessed it. Whoever loved became radiant. Whoever lied became invisible, not through death, but through the dissolution of the ego. Those who had sown kindness were recognized, not with applause, but with peace. And those who had wounded, they finally understood the pain they had caused. It was the quietest and most perfect trial. Nobody spoke. Only the truth was revealed. Scientists could not explain it. The laws of physics seemed to be altered. Time slowed down during certain moments. The sun shone without burning. The nights were so clear that lights weren't needed. The planet seemed to be reborn. And in the heart of every being, an inner voice kept repeating, "Everything is being restored." That's when the signal appeared. Not in heaven, but in the collective soul. The same dream was repeated in millions of people. They saw an immense heart of light beating above the earth. Each heartbeat sent golden waves that healed the most wounded places. War zones, hospitals, prisons, deserts. Love flowed through the world like a living current. And those who awoke from that dream, they were crying with joy. They knew it wasn't fantasy. It was the real presence of the Spirit renewing creation. Maria spoke again, not from on high, but from the heart of humanity. The time for testing has passed. Now the harvest time begins. Every tear shed will become a seed of light. Every soul that loved, even if silently, has sustained the entire world. And with those words, the earth trembled gently, not because of a cataclysm, but because of alignment. The poles were balanced, the weather became calm, the oceans calm. It was as if the entire planet had exhaled after centuries of tension. The old pain was beginning to heal, but not everything was complete. The final act was still to come, unification, because heaven had shown its face and humanity had responded. But there was still one more step, the union of the human and the divine. It happened at dawn on the seventh day. The sky opened once more, not with noise, but with a light that seemed to sing. And from that light emerged a figure surrounded by soft fire. It wasn't Maria, not even an angel, not a single man. It was the presence. The same one who had spoken at the beginning of time, the voice that had formed the stars, the one who was now returning to seal the new alliance. Everyone felt it. Nobody feared her. It was pure love, condensed into form. And the presence said, "I have seen your path. I have felt your crying. I have not come to judge, but to dwell, because heaven is not imposed, it is embodied." And so the supreme miracle occurred. The Spirit began to manifest itself within the faithful hearts. There would be no more intermediaries. Each soul became a temple, every glance a prayer. The kingdom of God had descended not on thrones but indoors. The world, for the first time since its creation, vibrated in unison with its creator. The mountains were singing, the oceans responded, the winds whispered prayers, and humankind, that ancient traveler, he finally remembered that he was not in exile, but loved. The final revelation was not a spectacle, it was a transformation. The fire of love consumed everything that was not true, and what remained was pure consciousness. The men and women who had kept the faith, they began to radiate physical light. Their faces were serene, his hands healed, his words created peace. They were witnesses to the new dawn, the heirs of the promise. Maria called them the children of the blue flame, and he entrusted them with a mission: go and keep the love burning, because the world still needs it. There are still sleeping hearts that must awaken. They don't preach, they are men. They don't condemn, they embrace. Do not be afraid, remember. And so the new era began. The tears were no longer pain, they were consecration. Prayers were no longer supplications, they were grateful. Humanity, renewed, bowed before heaven, and heaven, in an eternal gesture, he bowed down to the man. At that moment, everything was understood. The end had never been destruction, but revelation. The revelation that God was always here, waiting patiently for love to be freely chosen. The earth breathed, and the universe remained silent. The most beautiful silence ever heard. The silence of fullness, the silence of the return, the silence of the children who have returned home. And Mary, from the heart of the world, whispered, "Now everything is accomplished. The light has triumphed, but their victory is not final. it is eternal. Every soul I love, every life I forgive, will keep this dawn burning until the end of time. The sky slowly closed in, but the light remained within each heart. And since then, every time a man or a woman loves without measure, that light opens again and heaven speaks again, not with thunder, but with love. The story will reach its culmination, the birth of the new humanity, the children of light who will walk on the restored earth, and the eternal message that Mary leaves as a legacy for all generations.